Okay, here's the back of this spring house that we were talking about that John Chad had lived in while his house on the hill right there was being built. Okay, this spring house right here, small structure. It looks like it's made from local stones that were quarried in the area. Okay, the significance about this building during the battle was that over to the north, across the Brandywine, the British Army had their 12-pound guns. They had howitzers, and they had 12-pound guns just across the creek at the school, the elementary school. Well, they were trying to aim right in back of the John Chad house. The Proctor's battery had two positions, actually probably almost three positions along the ridge right behind me. One was down at the corner of Route 1 and Creek Road, which we will visit, and one was just near this house. They're not really sure exactly where it was because there were no redoubts in the area. A redoubt is a sunken area where the cannons fit into that are protected. The cannons up here were probably just pulled on the grass. That's why there's no mention of where they were. The artillery fired across and hit this building right here. On the corner of this building was hit by a cannonball. If you can see the red bricks, I'll go up and I'll point exactly where it is. And I'll show you where the repair was done. It's an old repair. It doesn't match the rest of the building. There's many accounts of them saying that the ball hit the building. And I'll show you where it is. That's where the ball was. There's a couple repairs there. It hit the corner of the structure. Now what they were trying to do, they were trying to aim at the Proctor's battery that was up on top of the hill. Now during this time, Washington was on horseback. He was here right at Chad's Ford. He wasn't over in Birmingham Township. He wasn't near Howe or Cornwallis. He was here. His headquarters were about a quarter of a mile to the south. Now he stayed here. He got inflicting reports that the British were flanking him. He didn't know if the British were flanking him because he was getting reports saying they were, and he also got reports saying that they weren't. So basically he stayed here. He stayed on top of the hill over here, probably with, they didn't have field pieces back then, they had telescopes, and he was looking over across the creek at the British movements. And the British saw this officer and his aides on horse. They aimed at him across the creek. They used artillery on him. They fired on him. And up on top of this hill, the John Chad house, John Chad's widow at the time was living in the house during the battle, and her niece was there also with her. They were up on top of that hill. They were with Washington. They saw what he was doing. He was looking at the British. And all of a sudden, cannonballs are coming their way. They're hitting the ground next to them. And Washington reports to the widow, John Chad's widow, and says, "We must retreat from this area. We've been spotted," which was absolutely true. Washington was right on that ridge just above the house in the farmer's field. These were all farmer's fields. There was no trees in the area. John Chad owned this property. He farmed the property. And he built his house on high ground up here. Because right in back of me, the Brandywine Creek floods. And sometimes we'll even come into this area. So he built his house on high ground so he wouldn't get the water in the basement or damage his structure. A lot of information about the area. We're standing right on the battlefield. Like I said, the Brandywine is right behind me. We're going to take a look at that in a while. Now we're going to take a look at some artillery positions. Before we go into the whole battle itself and the history, we're going to see where some of these emplacements were, where the Continental Artillery put their guns, and you could actually know why they put the guns there. You know, now there's no leaves on the trees. Makes a big difference. You can see sight paths. I can see for a distance, if I'm high up on a ridge, exactly why the Continental Artillery picked this. So we're going to go to one of these places right now.